In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. To everything there is a season, time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to gain and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time of hate. Time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. That is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. Ecclesiastes is one of the one might say more depressing books in the Bible. Um, there was even a video I saw a couple weeks ago. I think the title was something like "Is Ecclesiastes Nihilistic?" If you don't know what nihilistic means, it's basically the belief that life is meaningless and we're just kind of like floating orbs here in this big universe. We don't actually matter at all. Obviously, it's not nihilistic, but there is you could say a darker undertone to it. I'd just say a realistic undertone and an undertone that is just keeping it real, to be quite honest. I talked about how in my first video I ever posted, the title was Modern Self Improvement is Broken. Here's how we fix it, or something along the lines of that. I stated that most likely there'll be a part two, a continuation of that video, or a spin off of sorts. And I think if there's any video to qualify as that sequel, as that continuation, this would be it. This isn't directly a part two, more so maybe some other thoughts I have and the real dangers of modern self improvement. I guess rather than the real dangers, what it actually is. And what it actually is a new rat race. So basically, um, trying to gather my thoughts. A few years ago, kind of a popular term emerged across the internet, across the world of business and financial advice, and self improvement was getting bigger and bigger. And it was called something along the lines of like the 9 to 5 rat race, or the rat race, something along the lines of that. And basically, what they meant to say was that many adults, and even kids, right, are stuck in this rat race where they either have a job and it's unfulfilling work, they're overworked, they're burnt out. You come in sleep deprived and you got to work for 8 hours on your computer, sitting in a desk chair, and you do this until you retire. And now you have all the free time in the world, but you're too old enough to maybe experience some things you could have when you were younger just because you don't have the capabilities, rather that be, or whether that be mentally or physically, to do those things anymore because you were just working your 9 to 5 and just working your butt off until you die. And it was also talking about how schools condition you to be a 9 to 5 or be a part of the rat race, which I agree with. I agree with. Whether you agree with that or not, that's my personal opinion. And you can, do as you will, or, yeah, do as you will with that opinion. Oh, want to say I necessarily don't care what you think, but just because you think that is not going to change my opinion or make me feel offended. It shouldn't offend you. My opinion shouldn't either. So, apologies for the little tangent, but basically, what I'm trying to get at is there was this 9 to 5 rat race term going around, and the solution, the common solution, was problematic because it didn't actually solve the core of the problem. And what the common solution was is to become an entrepreneur or whatever that may be, right? Something along the lines of that. Businessman, start your own business and make a ton of money and get in shape. That was kind of the core of the message, to be honest. And well, starting your own business, I think, is a great thing and something I'm probably going to do when I'm older. And well, getting in shape is obviously a great thing. This was kind of it. This was like the message that was being preached. And I spoke about this in my first video. I'm speaking about it again. That's unfulfilling. The real issue is that you are now a slave to productivity. So prior to this, you were a slave to your job. You were a slave to your 9 to 5, whatever. Let's just say that, okay? You are now a slave to productivity. Self improvement has sold you a lie that the more productive you are, the more of a man you are, the better you are in general, whatever. Now, productivity is not a bad thing. Inherently, it's not a bad thing. I think productivity is more a positive thing. We should be striving to be productive as um, human beings, but hyper productivity leads to burnout. And so you get burnt out in your job, and now you're burnt out in your business, but now you have this mentality of like, I gotta make more money, bro. So like, I just gotta make more money. I just gotta keep grinding, bro, keep hustling. And it's maybe more of a disastrous route to take um, than the 9 to 5 in some aspects, not all. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna get into all those reasons, but you can kind of picture in your mind maybe what those are. You become a man who measures his self-worth, his value in this world through productivity. Like legit, right? I'm not like you like let that sink in honestly. However productive you are is how much of a man you are. Whether maybe you explicitly think that or it's more of a subtle thing of like, well, bro, if I'm not productive, then I'm not gonna make as much money, and masculinity is like being rich and stuff, and being rich isn't bad. I've talked about this. I'm not gonna go over that again. How like these aren't nearly bad things. We know that, but it is not a great thing. It's not like, dude, awesome, like I'm a millionaire. What are you gonna do with that money? Right? What is it really at? You still wake up and you go about your day as a normal human being, but you're just a millionaire. You still go to bed every night and you know what I mean? Maybe even more. Maybe you even have more stress because you're just thinking about money all the time. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's a brand new rat race that we are facing. And maybe even if we got this past this hustle culture, which I think we have to a certain extent, we now have a hyper optimization of health and things like this, where we have guys like Andrew Huberman. I love Andrew Huberman. I personally watch him on a frequent basis, but people take this stuff so seriously and they narrow everything down to just the last, like, just squeezing out the last bit of juice they can, when in reality you're never gonna get that final bit of juice. You're never going to get there. Now there's kind of a health rat race, right? Is what I'm trying to get at. So we have things like hyper optimizing your sleep. I'm a sleep nerd, bro. Right. So, I'm like, I'm the first one to say I've fallen into this trap um before. I might even still be slightly in it. Optimizing your sleep isn't bad, but stop nitpicking every little thing. Stop nitpicking one bad night of sleep and think you need to change something. Like, dude, you're gonna have bad night's sleep, right? I think this is a big one. People get like sleep trackers and they're like, oh, even though I've been sleeping, 7 to 9 hours a night for the past 2 weeks, I got one night of 5 hours of sleep. Guess I can't go to the gym today, because my ring is like red or whatever. It's like, don't train, like take a rest day. I don't know. That's insane. And it's a little bit disturbing that a machine is dictating kind of what we do in our day and how we approach our day, right? You're seeing this sleep tracker, this like sleep machine that's tracking every facet of your sleep. And now, if you got a bad night's sleep, you're gonna go about your day with less drive, less motivation, less hype. And if you got a good night's sleep, now you're just super upbeat, all because of a machine. I think that's kind of crazy. It is crazy. It is crazy. And we're in this hyper optimization mode when it comes to training and diet and productivity, literally everything. It's a new rat race. So before I go on a complete rant about my thoughts on that, I want to go back to the Ecclesiastes passage. Basically, it's saying, I mean, I'm not going to recite everything. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck was planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal. You kind of get the picture. There's a time for everything. Not only that, what this is kind of also saying is that death will come inevitably on this earth. Of course, eternal life in heaven, yes, death will come on this earth. Hyper optimizing every facet of your life at the end of the day is meaningless. Because are you taking your sleep to heaven with you? I'm not saying don't care about your sleep. Are you taking your physique to heaven with you? I'm not saying don't work out. Don't think that's what I'm saying. The things you're going to take to heaven with you is your family, your friends, right? The people you love, and your own soul. Those are the things you should honestly focus on that are on this earth. I'm not saying we shouldn't work out, right? That's not what I'm saying at all. It's great to have a hobby. It's great to be in shape and be healthy because I think with those things, you can actually have a better relationship with your loved ones and even your own soul. You can better through those things because you have that discipline, because you have mental clarity and less stress and anxiety and all that. But nonetheless, these we aren't taking these things to heaven. Self improvement, modern self improvement, has made us worship looks, money, and status. If that doesn't sound too appealing to you to worship those things, that's a good thing because, congratulations, you're not a psycho. Um, I hope no one worships looks, money, or status purposefully. I hope no one's like sitting there praying to money. but maybe reevaluate your life and think about, what are most of my thoughts comprised of throughout the day? Is it godly things? Is it positive, uplifting, mental mentally clear things, or is it money? Is it, how's my physique? Is it, you know, can I get this girl? Can I not get this girl, man? Whatever it may be, please stop worshiping these vain and meaningless things. And look, looks, money, and status can still be used as tools in your life. Looks are, I might do a whole video on the halo effect and kind of how we can actually use that to our advantage as Christians, as, you know, in career and school and life in general, and how we need to be cautious of the halo effect because it is a real thing. Money, um, gotta be careful with money. I'm not a super rich man myself, but I've seen it time and time again. You hear about it in sports, pop culture. People use money for very, very bad things. People will blow their money on meaningless things and go bankrupt once again. Be careful with it. Money's a phenomenal tool, but be careful with it. Status, use your status to evangelize, use your status to be a positive role model for the youth and just people in general. If you have high status, and high status is, like I said, not inherently bad or good. It's kind of indifferent. It depends on how you use it. Because they're tools, right? I don't know if I used this analogy in my first video, because like I said, this is the follow up to that, in a way. If we got, like, think about a tool, say a hammer. You can use your hammer to, hammer the nail to a wooden board or something like that. That's a good use of that tool. But we can use our hammer to hurt people. We can use a hammer, um, yeah, I'll say to hurt people. Like what else you would use it for that's so terrible? To destroy things, to destroy property, maybe, right? Think about that. We have tools, use them properly. If you use them properly, they can be great. They can prosper. Or those you can prosper with those tools, but it can also be the destruction of yourself and the people around you and your relationship with God. All those things. It can. So I hope now, this video, that it made you realize the issue with modern self improvement, the worship of vain things that comes with it, the focus on vain things, the lack of spiritual nourishment, the hyper obsession. It gets to an unhealthy level, even though we're trying to be healthier. It's an interesting paradox. It is. We need to be careful in the internet age with what we consume and how we digest it. Another thing I kind of want to touch on. This is, I guess, this is kind of a tangent, but I think it's good to evaluate, maybe in a more scientific manner. So, we got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a psychology like pyramid um, that was invented by, forget his first name, gosh, a guy whose last name was Maslow. In I think it was the 1940s, if I'm not mistaken. And it basically talks about human needs, and it's in a hierarchy and on a pyramid. So first we have physiological needs, which is breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. Very basic, very essential needs. We have safety and security, health, employment, property, family, and social ability. I'm reading this off because I can't like go off the dome. Like I know about the general concept of it, but I can't name off like every single essential need. So bear with me. We have love and belonging. So this is friendship, family, intimacy, and sense of connection. And these are kind of getting high, like higher in terms of how important these are to our fulfillment in life as human beings. We have self esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, the need to be a unique individual, self actualization, morality, creativity, spontaneity. Yeah, something like that. Acceptance, experience, purpose, meaning, and inner potential. That's kind of like a fulfilling mission. That's like self actualization. So let's evaluate how modern self improvement does on all of these needs. So, the physiological breathing. Well, I think we as humans breathe, so good there. Food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. Sleep has been hijacked with the hyper optimization of sleep. And maybe if it's not the hyper optimization of sleep, it's the old school sleep is for the weak adage. That's been hijacked by hustle culture. Safety and security, health. Look, in hustle culture, a lot of times you're sacrificing money, you're sacrificing health for money. Not as much anymore, but there's still kind of that trade off. We should not, we shouldn't be sacrificing our health for money. Enjoyment, property, family, and social ability. Employment, property, family. Family's a big one. I think I hear a lot about like self improvement guys saying they don't even talk to their family anymore. And sometimes, okay, I get it. Or maybe their family was like, abusive, or they had some trauma, or they were super unsupportive. That's a different story. I think a lot of these guys, obviously, I can't judge, but I think a lot of these guys exaggerate just how, bad their family was or how unsupportive they were. Like, and they'll be like, I don't visit my family over the holidays because of this, this, and this. And you're like, dude, like, look, I'm just a kid, so maybe I can't. This is just my take, and this can change. But you gotta maybe get over that a little bit, because I've people will be like, my family said I wouldn't do well in business, and look at me now, and I don't even see them anymore because they said that, and it's like, yeah, dude, that was 15 years ago. Like, go home for the holidays. That's actually a bigger deal than that maybe some people think, and that kind of meets the eye, so to speak. Um, Social ability, self improvement kind of popularizes, or not popularizes, but promotes just be friends with rich people because those people are going to better you, or be friends with only these types of people because those are the people that's going to better you. A lot of these people are shallow when you really get to know them. Not saying all of them, but a lot. So I don't really like that. Obviously, don't have like friends that are promoting like bad habits, but you got to find friends that have deep meaning and fulfillment beyond just the material. Love and belonging, friendship, family, intimacy, sense of connection. We kind of just talked about this. Sense of connection, I think a lot of times in hustle culture, they judge people's worth and value based on what they provide for them, whether that be financially or just like advice wise or whatever. Where it's like you see people as tools, which they're not. They're human beings with souls. We have to get past that. You can never truly feel a connection with someone if you think about, how much of an asset are they for this, and this. Oh well, he smokes sometimes, so I'm gonna stay away from him, even if maybe he's a super nice dude who actually like has a lot of good habits and is trying to level up, but just maybe has a little bit of advice. They push people out of their lives because they're not fitting to their like standards or whatever. And that's fine to a certain extent, but it gets a little extreme, I think. And you can probably determine that for yourself, just how extreme that gets. Self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, the need to be a unique individual. So the need to be a unique individual, self-improvement turns everyone into carbon copies of each other. Where it's like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and I like to go to the gym and I want to live in Dubai one day. Then you ask the next guy, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur right now. I like to lift a lot, and one day I want to move to Dubai. And the next guy, and it's kind of the same answer. Maybe it's if it's not the exact same, you're gonna get the same responses, and you're like, like where is the individuality in this? Where's the true experience of being yourself and being your own person? It's not there. And be yourself doesn't mean go out and like smoke weed because you like to do that. Being yourself is just like being the best version of yourself, but having a unique sense of humor, having those unique personality traits that make you you. I think that's fine. I think it's a positive thing that self improvement likes to kind of tear down a little bit. Self actualization, morality, creativity. Um, Gosh, let's see if I can read this. um, Spontaneity. I don't even know. Acceptance, experience, purpose, meaning and inner potential. Your meaning is money. Your meaning is the gym. Your meaning is women. Your meaning is status. Doesn't fulfill that. I don't think it does. This hierarchy of needs um, is a very old psychology concept. It's nothing new. It's nothing like what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I guess it's nothing unique or like controversial. This is kind of just like, yeah, we need these things and we want to feel fulfilled. Um, I think if you look at this from a Christian perspective, I think God fulfills all these things. And even though Maslow was an atheist, uh, I don't think he realized that God fills all of these things. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's a very powerful thing to realize because he does. So I'm gonna post, like on the post section of my channel, a picture of Maslow's hierarchy of needs to kind of go along with this video. And This video, so I'm recording this Friday, January 23rd. This video is going to come out tomorrow, but I have the post up today. And so, yeah, I just kind of wanted to make a follow up to my original video, and I want to make sure that my viewers realize just how heavy and just how deep this stuff gets. Modern self improvement is a lie. I talked about how to fix it, I think kind of how we should. But in this video, I wanted to discuss more of the real issue, the real deep underlying issue of why it won't be truly fulfilling. But I even though this video may kind of have a negative undertone, I want to leave it off on something valuable. If you keep God at the center of your life, all right, if you truly do keep God at the center of your life, you keep Him first, you keep His commandments as best as you can, and you live for God, you'll be okay. You'll still go through tough times, but in the end, you will be okay. You will find fulfillment through that. That's the real mission. And that's what we need to look at and point our eyes to in kind of these darker times of the world. I think we can all agree. Past few years have been interesting, but we need to look towards the Lord, not money, not looks, not status, not anything like that. Let's keep our eyes on God. So, God bless.